Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And on this week's COTC, got two sides on who I suspect many of you are very interested in some of their enabling assets right now. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Brentford correspondent. It's Tom Medd. How are you, Tom?
Good mate, not too bad. Yeah, good to be back on, thank you.
Good stuff, mate. And I kept him waiting all the way up towards game week 11. It's our Bournemouth correspondent. It's Neil Grover. How are you, Neil?
Doing well, worth waiting for, I think.
Yes, and the timing feels right now to really properly talk about Bournemouth. But Tom, firstly, I want to start with your team. You've
Mm,
probably heard me say for the majority of this season, Brentford are evolving. I keep repeating myself every single week.
you
Brentford are
do?
getting a little bit more interesting, a little bit more offensive. What was that on Monday? Because that's not what I've seen so far this season.
Potentially one of the most depressing games of football I've ever watched in my entire life, to be honest. So I
Okay,
think,
that's quite deep. Like
yeah,
DMs are open, mate.
yeah, absolutely. I think only maybe the second worst game of football I've watched to the other time we lost to Fulham in the playoff final. Maybe it was just so negative and so not what we've been watching this season so far. And it just like even when we scored the goal, it was like, well, it's only a matter of time basically until they score again. And you got to the 90th minute, and I think that's made it what made it even worse is you got to the 90th minute, you're like, okay, like somehow we've managed to scrape through this game. And then the two goals were just like atrociously bad defending. So
I
yeah,
mean,
it was pretty.
I put on our Slack as soon as they equalised, I went, I think they'll score again.
Yeah,
Like it
well,
felt like that.
it was the most naive. Like as soon as they conceded, I was like, please just it's 1-1, just have to stay with the point. And I just knew as soon as they scored, it was like, wow, we're going to go all out now for the win. And it was like, well, we did have a good chance, but you just knew there was going to be another goal in it because it just all of a sudden we went from sitting back and not attacking the game at all to throw in 7, 8 men forward trying to get the winner. It was like it just wasn't the game to do that.
It's there's two sides to it though, isn't there? Because although Fulham kind of dominated the game, they didn't in the second half, they weren't hurting you. They
No,
didn't have real there was a lot of efforts, but all of Flecken's saves were like from distance and stuff. They were kind of
yeah,
into him, weren't they?
there was
Rather
nothing
than
that.
rather than him making incredible saves.
No, there was nothing sort of. I think the first half made a couple of good saves, like the double save right at the start. But other than that, it was all pretty much sort of what you expect from Brentford sort of previously. You just
Yeah.
pack out the box, nothing gets in there, and like, yeah, okay, take the long shot from distance, but it's not really going to
So
do
it's
anything. If that makes sense.
part of my point because actually, if you walk away with the 1-0 win there, you'd go, well, okay, they give up a lot of
Yeah,
territory and some efforts from distance, but Fulham's XG was quite low till injury time. Professional away performance in a local derby, job done.
yeah.
Fine margins, right? But I'm more interested in why you think you played like that because you haven't played like that previously this season,
I think it
despite
might
having
have.
some like really difficult away games, mate.
Yeah, no, no. I think for me, it was like what we've seen in the past is like the Liverpool. So the away games had obviously Liverpool, yourselves, Man City. We always take them as like free hits. Whereas I think Frank saw that as like, okay, with the Fulham game, they've been playing pretty good football so far this season, as much as it pains for me to say. Um, how are we going to cope with this one? Well, maybe this is the game where we just sit back and defend and then hope we can get on the counter and nick a goal sort of thing. So it just I guess the Fulham game for us is not a free hit game. It's like, well, we can get points in this game. Whereas, if you go out and you lose 3-1 to yourselves, it's not really, but no one really remembers it at the end of the season. But, if you snatch a 1-0 win against Fulham, the fans are a lot happier about that one. And because that's where we, in essence, should be picking up points.
And it's the rivalry, right? So
Exactly. Yeah, you want to beat Fulham. So
yeah, get that. I wonder if it was a consequence of those away games because you've got this ridiculous record now of in all five of your away games, and Manchester United's the other one we've left out. So you had
yeah,
four previously really tough away days. You scored first now in all five of them
yeah,
and lost.
I know. Yeah, it's been so much fun so far watching
For the
us all
benefit
this
of
year.
the audio listeners, Tom's kind of grinning, but he wants to headbutt me, I think.
It's the meme of the guy who's like crying with the happy face mask in front of it. That's been me for the last 2 days, I think. Yeah, it's been a bit frustrating. Defensively, I mean, maybe as well the performance came from what happened at like in the Ipswich game. Just like it was just such a crazy game. It's like, and we should never be. That should never happen, really. I know we've obviously got injuries at the back. I'm sure we'll get onto, but even still, we should be sort of a little bit more solid than going 2-0 down early to Ipswich, and it being a 4-3 game is just a bit mental, really. So maybe Frank looked at it and went, well, maybe we need to just have a bit of a reset here as well.
Maybe because you have been really open.
Yeah, yeah, it's been pretty criminal to be fair at times. So yeah.
Okay. Neil, last 3 league games: Arsenal, Man City, Villa, 7 points. Not bad. Thoughts?
No, not bad really. You take it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
I mean,
would.
I
haven't lost to Arsenal in that sequence, so I'm content.
No, I mean, look, what more can you ask for? Okay, the Villa game wasn't the prettiest, but you take a point and run from Villa Park, so especially as a mid-table team. So yeah, I mean, I can't really complain. And actually, the thing for me is it's the manner that we beat City. Like we took them apart. Like it could have been 3 or 4-0, and that wouldn't have been weird, which is phenomenal to say, right?
Well, it is weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not weird, but it is weird.
yeah. But it wouldn't have been unfair. Put it that way. I mean, Smith should have made it 3-0 for a start. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the football that we're playing. I think we saw glimpses of it last year as well, where perhaps it just wasn't quite falling for us, and we were kind of building up to someone's going to get an absolute spanking from us at some point when it clicks. It feels like it's clicked. And I can't help but get a bit excited now about where this is going.
No, I think you have every right to be, and you probably know that the result didn't come as a huge shock to myself, right?
No, exactly.
I really thought, like, stylistically, the matchup was pretty good for you, despite your historical record against Manchester City. That must in itself speak a little bit of volumes, isn't it? That even pre-game, I'm sitting there going, I think you'll beat Man City.
Yeah, and I felt oddly confident as well, which again, like you said, our record, for anyone that didn't know, we hadn't beaten them in 22 times. I think it was the worst record of any fixture in the Football League ever. So it feels like, I mean, it feels nice to finally crack that record. But I sit here as a Bournemouth fan, and now I look at the table and I go, yeah, we've actually have now beaten everyone there. It's only taken us 8 years, but we've done it.
I mean that's a great. Yes, it might have taken a long time, but it's a great achievement for your football club.
Yes.
Where it was, right, to have achieved that. What does it mean though? Does it change expectation now? I guess it must do.
Yes and no. The expectation of the club, at least the way it's projecting, has always been consistent, small steps forward. Now, obviously, this year it felt like the goal was sort of maybe 9th, 10th, maybe 8th if things went well. So I still feel like that's kind of where we sit, barring a few more of these ridiculous results. I think we need to go on quite a run to do any better than that, and I'm not going to sit here and predict that. So, yeah, I think we're still where I feel like we're on course. And when we appointed Iriola, these were the sort of results that he was brought in to have. This is what he did in Spain, right?
Yeah, he had a record at Vallecano of actually
Yep.
beating a lot of the bigger clubs. It was well highlighted when he joined the club. You say aiming beyond that is you'd have to have a great run. Well, I'm looking at table, Forest are third, and you're four points behind them, and Tom, you're only 6 points off that, so it's still very close at the moment. But I saw the stat you put in, Neil, 60 points from the last 38 league games. I mean, that's all you need to do, mate. You'll qualify for Europe.
Yeah.
That's amazing, mate.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it sort of feels like it's crept up on everyone, and I felt like this week, I mean, rightly so with the City result. It feels like everyone's kind of gone, hang on a minute, there's something happening here. Even like Five Live and all of those sort of pundits feel like they've woken up a little bit to it, which is good and bad. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remain quite grounded at the moment. There's still a lot of football to be played, but yeah, I mean, I think the door has squeaked open for us here.
For the record, the patrons will probably have seen it on the Bournemouth Slack channel, but that table that you showed of those 60 points from the last 38 games would have you sick for over that period, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Very impressive. But prior to these three results, you lost at Leicester.
We did.
Undeservedly, probably.
Yes. But we did lose.
But you did lose at Leicester prior to these three games.
Yeah, I would say so. That was one game I did go to, and it was it felt like one of those games, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to Leicester, but if you play it 10 times, we win it 8 times. And unfortunately, we were in one of those where it just didn't quite land for us. Obviously, Evanilson had a goal chalked off as well, rightly, but another day's half a boot more onside, right? And it counts. So, yeah, it's going to happen. The nature of the way we play is so front-footed that teams can sometimes get behind us, right? And that's kind of what Leicester did. They got in behind. It was a wonderful goal as well. To be fair to Buonanotte, I think it was.
Yeah. Tom, how have you seen your start so far? We've spoken about the away games quite a bit, but the home record, and obviously this fixture is at home, is very good, right? 13 points out of 15 taken at home so far, admittedly with a kind set of home fixtures to mix against the difficult away fixtures, but that's strong, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the draw obviously 1-1 against West Ham is the only sort of points dropped so far this season, and it's every result, I think, sort of, I'd say apart from maybe West Ham of how they're performing at the moment, but essentially before the start of the season, you might have said it draws, relatively there or thereabouts. But we've won the games where you think potentially we should have won, and we've lost the games where you sort of go, well, you're going to lose those games. The Fulham game was maybe the first game where you go, well, I don't really know who's going to win this one. It's before the Fulham game, I would have gone, oh, it's a great start to the season. I'm really, really happy. It's purely that, but I think there's almost been a few we've gotten away with it 100%. So I mean, the Ipswich game could have clearly been 4-4 at the end as well if that creeps in by a couple of inches.
You put yourself in a position you were 2-0 down as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we got incredibly lucky.
Palace played well against you game 1.
Again, you're an Eze disallowed free kick away from that being 2-2. So we've got away with it a lot, I think, so far. But you just take what you can get, and at the moment we've got points on the board, and we've got to be pretty happy with where we've started.
So is it not as good as it looks in your opinion then?
I'd say it's better. I'd say at the moment where we are from a points point of view is better, I'd say, than I think slightly than how we've played. But also that's based upon the injuries we've also got as well. So, once again, we've had major injuries and recurring injuries to key players. And so for the team that we're able to put out, I'm really happy with how we're performing, but we're probably slightly ahead of where we maybe should be based on the performances. I mean, for attackingly, obviously going forward, it's been phenomenal. It's been great to watch, but defensively, it's been pretty atrocious.
Your games have felt like let's try and score more than the opposition.
Oh, it reminds me of, was it
until Monday?
What you used to say about Leicester is you've got to score. We got to score 2 goals to start with because we're going to concede 2 goals. So, Monday was the first game where I watched it, and I've gone, what's going on to this? This is completely different from how we played this season. Defensively has been pretty woeful. Just the amount of gaps we're given, and teams just be able to cut through us so easily. It's been interesting. I think the best way to put it.
Very much so. I mean, yes, this fixture list in terms of the home games you've had so far has been quite kind with 13 points out of 15. But across that, Tom, XG of 12.9 across those 5 games is the highest in the league of teams playing at home so far this season.
Right, I didn't. Bloody hell, that's pretty impressive.
The highest home XG in the league. Now, again, you've had, I would say, the best 5 home fixtures of any team, but it's still a surprise to see you first.
Yeah, and obviously, especially when you think about, we're never sort of expected to be the top of that, are we? So, I mean, going forward, we've been incredible. I mean, it's just looked so smooth there's been players out. There's been players that look like they've jumped forward from where they were last year. I mean, Keano's Potter's looked phenomenal, whether he's playing left wing back or left wing. He's just, but he obviously, I know again he had injuries last year, but it seems he looks like he's just made such a step up again this year, and he looks like he's deserves to be there now. Whereas last year it sort of was like, is he going to quite make this level? Now he looks like, yeah, absolutely. Someone's got to kick him out of the team. Bear in mind, we've just signed what, £25 million Carvalho, and at the moment he's not getting a look in over him. So
at home, really good offensively. No
yeah,
prizes for guessing where you rank on XG in away games.
not bottom, surely.
Yep.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
I mean, with the fixtures we've had, that's not so surprising.
No,
I
it's
guess.
not. It's not.
No.
Genuinely, it's not. I mean, it's worth saying that West Ham 19th, actually Arsenal 18th for XG in away games so far this season.
Right.
For the record, Neil, because obviously you are away this weekend, 7th for XG in away games so far this season. But actually, the majority of your tougher ones, Neil, have been at home. It's been the other way around, right? Generally, I know you went to Liverpool, but
yeah, other than Liverpool.
yeah, interesting. But what does that feel to you then, Neil, hearing that their home record going into this weekend and considering the results you've just had?
I mean, it sounds like it's going to be the sort of it could be a bit of a barnstorm. So bets on 0-0, everyone, right?
Your team made me look like such a mug Monday night, Tom. I swear, man. Go on, go, Neil. Fortunately, Neil saved my analysis this weekend with his team.
But yeah, I mean, I think the other interesting thing that I've got from watching and listening to Brentford is obviously how quick you start generally. Like as do we. So it's going to be really interesting. The first 20 minutes are going to be a real tone setter for the game. So I think that's what I'm really interested to watch on Saturday is who comes out of that period ahead, because I think that will be the team that then ultimately takes the points.
What did you make them that period of the early goals, Tom?
Um,
I mean, ridiculous, but it was 4 games in a row inside 80
it was
seconds
just,
or so.
yeah, it was. I don't even know sort of what caused it. I think it was one of those where it just, you always get these really just bizarre occurrences. It just seemed to be one of those because each one was just like, pass back to Flekken long ball up, win the
Second
first
balls.
ball.
Yeah.
And it was just second balls. And, I know that we are very much were the trendsetter of the set piece coach. And there was a lot of talk about, obviously, again, that, we've we signed one of the coaches from Sheffield United, and I know when he signed him, everyone's going, well, why have you signed a coach from Sheffield United? They've just been relegated. But there seems to be, we just do so much work with that, and it does always seem to work. You've got one of them at Man City now, one of them at Arsenal. They're doing all right, so it's got to be something we're doing right. Yeah, so I'm not. I think it's just one of those crazy situations where it's just happened, but the amount of effort and work we do on that side of things, it's got to be something attributed to that.
So help me, Neil, because I know your team obviously starts really fast. Now, I've watched all of your home games this season, and that's been a theme. And in fact, I think in the last 20 minutes of the majority of them home games, you kind of really tailed off a little bit. Other than maybe the Arsenal game, but you had the man advantage, so it was understandable. Is that the case away from home? I haven't watched any of your away games yet.
Yeah, I mean, we still will try and, with the one exception was Villa, where we realised we were not going to do them for pace as much as perhaps other teams, just because of the nature of how they sometimes set up. So that's why we started with Unal up top, I think. But yeah, I mean, the philosophy of Andoni is very much the same home and away. It's get forward, cause mistakes and turnovers as high up the pitch as you possibly can, and everyone, like, you sort of, it becomes a bit of a swarm. So you'll see us trying to just basically strangle the middle of the pitch as well. So to funnel it out wide. Primarily because our centre backs this year have really come on. And have been so much better. So we can kind of just eat up crosses that are coming in. So yeah, I think we'll see much for muchness. Maybe some of the who plays exactly where might change, but it will be very similar.
Okay, Tom, what's the worst that could happen this season?
what's the worst that could happen this season?
Yeah.
We get way more injuries and it all goes to general shit. But I don't know. I think we're in, and obviously I'm 100% jinxing us here, but it seems similar to last season where there seems to be teams down the bottom where, without obviously being too disrespectful, we're better than them. So I can't. I mean, worst thing for me is similar to. I think the worst case scenario for me looking at the moment is we finish similar to what we did last year, and we finished like 17th, 16th. I think we finished in the end last year, like in a bad place down the bottom with loads of injuries. But I've now jinxed us probably. But
That's right. I'm going to save you. Neil, same question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would feel like the same, but I mean, where I am now is the worst case that I think where I'm sat here on July 1st, and it would be a bad season, would be Andoni's Semenyo's gone, and Zaba's gone. Regardless of where we finish, I kind of echo, what Tom said. That with respect, it feels like things would have to go incredibly sideways from here for us to go down. But I feel like that's the most plausible negative that we could get from this season now.
Tom, what's the best case?
snatch that 8th place spot. But that seems like a push. Top half. I'll settle it slightly. Top
You know,
half.
8th might not get people Europe, right? It
Um,
could do, might not though.
yeah, okay, but I mean, like, top 7 would seem pretty. I mean, the teams you'd have to sort of displace up there now, especially now, Chelsea seem to have got their shit together, and a few other teams are sort of where the previous season's been a few teams where they've just dropped off at the bottom. It seems like now that 7th, 8th place is tough. So I think top half would be positive.
Neil, best case for you?
I mean, I think it is looking at that 7th, 8th, and
How can it be when for your team you are 6th over the last 38 games?
yeah, but I'm not gonna.
It's a whole season, mate.
Sure, no, certainly, and look, I'd love to say 6th. Heck, I'd love to go on a Europa League tour rather than Conference League, but I can't bring myself to do it yet. That feels like I would be
Oh, if
overly
you get here,
optimistic.
you'll bring yourself to do it. I'm
Oh,
fairly
100%,
certain.
mate. I'll be there. I'll be there at the front for all of them. But it just doesn't feel like, because it's just like exactly like Tom said. There's so many teams now that feel like that's what their target is. Like, obviously, the natural big 6, and then you've got Villa. Then you've got obviously Forest have found themselves in a wonderful place. Brighton and Newcastle, and it just sort of keeps going on. And you need some of them to also fall away for us to go up into those gaps, right? And that's a lot of ifs and buts for us to get higher than 7th and 8th, which I feel is realistic.
I hear that. I think part of the reason for the question is more, isn't it remarkable that we're in early November and we're talking about Brentford playing Bournemouth and nobody is discussing relegation? I don't just mean you two. I don't think anybody would put the two of you in terms of serious concern to be in that conversation. And whatever goes well beyond that, particularly that statistic for you, Neil, is unbelievable. You have every reason to think you can do more. Yours is a bit more difficult to judge at the moment, Tom, because of this home and away bias.
Yeah,
it's like, well, what happens when you suddenly get these tougher home games, and then there's an expectancy on away games, so like your next away game's Everton, for example.
Yeah, sure.
It will shift in terms of, right, people will look at you and think, oh, okay, I think Brentford should go to Everton and win maybe. It's not that easy. I mean, arguably that might have been your worst performance, I guess, Neil, at Everton. I know you won 3-2 very late on, but you didn't play well, did you?
Yeah, certainly we didn't at the start of the game for 100%, and then we just sort of the Bournemouth Everton game curse / whatever you want to call it sort of kicked in, because we always seem to have barnstormers against them. So, but yeah, I mean that, or maybe the Liverpool game, but I think even then we were all right. Like, it was just Liverpool at Anfield.
Okay, let's talk a bit of fantasy. Tom, how much did you enjoy the 30 points you got from Bryan Mbeumo in game week 9, mate?
Because I didn't captain and you, did you mean? Yeah.
Where were you?
Rub that one in
Where were
again.
you?
I know. I did think about it. I did think about it, but I had Yoane Wissa as well, so I thought, well, double up is enough, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's not bad.
it
Not
wasn't bad. No,
not 30 though. Did you think about it?
I no, yeah, really, no, really, really did. It was just one of those where who did Ireland have that week? Because unfortunately, I'm in that camp, so I feel like he had a really easy fixture, which he blanked in.
Yeah, actually,
Saints.
Southampton. Yeah.
completely understandable in fairness.
So I did think about it for about 30 seconds and then realized, oh, okay, I can't be that biased.
I mean, I wouldn't have thought about it for more than 30 seconds in fairness.
Yeah, I mean, Mbeumo's an easy pick, isn't he, at the moment?
Okay, right. Well, game week 13, Haaland goes to Liverpool. You've
Yeah,
got Leicester at home.
damn, that could be the one.
This conversation is going to come back around because not only did obviously City go to Liverpool that week, but Tottenham play Fulham at home. It's not the most glamorous. Arsenal are away to West Ham. They're London derbies. United have Everton at home. Chelsea and Villa play each other. Newcastle go to Crystal Palace. It's not a standout that week, mate.
Well, there is.
That's Brian Boomer,
Bryan
is
and
it?
Mbeumo. Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, he's been great. I mean, he just is electric at the moment. And then obviously you've got penalties just to add to that. Just Fulham was obviously, the game itself was terrible, but apart from that game, he's been super consistent as well. Um, Third top scorer at the moment. Am I all wrong with that one at the moment? It's changed obviously over the weekend,
Uh,
actually, more than likely changed. But
I think joint second, maybe, is he?
yeah,
On
I
eight?
think he's on 8. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
joint second with Wood.
Yeah.
With Chris Wood, yeah. I
What
don't,
is
I
this
don't,
season at
we
the moment?
don't get them all right. Chris Wood's having a great season as well. He was mighty quiet Monday night, Tom, at
I
Fulham,
mean,
and I suspect, I understand that the majority of your team
yeah.
was. Any
Yeah, I
concern
mean,
with that?
no, not really. It just seemed like one of those games. I mean, barely anyone played real well in that game. You hadn't even like Norgard, Janelt, just Damsgaard, those three in the middle just got overrun, and it just meant that there was no outball for him at all. So no, I got absolutely no concerns about having him, owning him, and captaining him in 13.
There have been some Newcastle rumours.
Mm,
Are you concerned?
I mean, so he's only got 18 months left,
Ooh.
I believe. I think, yeah, because at the end of this season, yeah, he's got 1 year left. Um, I mean, slightly. I think the difference for me is I feel like he's one of those players I wouldn't even be surprised if like next week he penned like a new 4 year contract, for example. Like he's been there quite. I mean, he's been there a long time already. I mean, the fans absolutely love him. He seems like he loves the club. I mean, he wouldn't have been there as long as he has since then. And he always seems to sort of just go under the radar enough that no one really comes along for him. So I'm hoping that stays the case. So if he could blank for a few more weeks, that'd be nice, and then just get through January, new contract. Yeah, no, of course worried, but it's what it's always going to
I
be.
guess with respect, it's an inevitability that if a player performs well enough for a club like
Yeah,
yours,
it's going to go.
going to go
I mean,
eventually at some point.
it always comes out. We always say it. We're a selling club. I mean, how much do we pay for him? I think it was £500,000.
Not bad,
So
mate.
it's not bad if we're going to get 40, 50 million from him and the rest probably. So
Is he a captaincy option in your opinion this week?
I mean, from how we've been talking at the moment, it's going to be 4 all by half time. So potentially,
Why I mention it.
yeah. I mean, probably it probably isn't. I mean, it's not one of those where we're sat here thinking about it, so it can't be an awful shout. But I have no idea how the game's going to
Well, no,
go this weekend at the
don't
moment.
get me wrong. I'm not looking at going, oh, Bournemouth at home is an outstanding
No,
fixture. It's
but
not. But actually, with what I've got this week at the moment, the vice captaincy sitting on him
yeah, me
as a
too.
nice kind of insurance of, well, I know he plays. There's no doubt about that. And I probably would agree here. There's likely to be goals in the game as long as you don't play like you did on Monday, Tom.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I
it's
suspect
going to
at
be
home you won't.
no, I don't think so at all. So I think it could be a silly game to be honest. So there could be goals absolutely flying in. I know we'll more than likely concede a few. So Neil's probably a better place to let us know if he's going to concede any. But yeah, the way we've been attacking, the way we've been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be goals, he more than likely most of the time is involved.
Yeah. Do you own him, Neil?
Yes.
Any thoughts on moving it on?
No, I don't think so at the moment. I'm in the Haaland camp as well, so that's my biggest fire in my team of what do I do. But I do own Salah, so it's kind of like, well, I don't feel overly pushed.
Yeah, understand that. What price did you get him at, Neil? Do you know?
I think I had him week one.
Okay. Well, that would be 7 then, near enough.
Mm,
Because he was 7 million of the roundabouts game week 3, I think, even when you played Southampton, I think, Tom. Have you had him all the way through as well, Tom?
That's a silly question, isn't
Okay, fine. So you've
it?
obviously got this value built up, right? The
Yes.
chances are, look, he's on 71 points. I mean, the thing is, for people less engaged than people watching this or listening to this, people will log in a few weeks if they don't own him and still go and buy him because, oh, look at him, he scored that points at this, etc. So he probably is going to hit 8. I suspect it will probably level out there. You do have this swing of fixtures, Tom, from game week 14. The next 3 are good, right? I think
Yeah.
for him. Bournemouth at home, Everton away, Leicester at home is a good cluster of. But we highlighted this. The run of fixtures afterwards from game week 14 into the new year when you play Arsenal on New Year's Day, bad. Then you look further ahead, there's City and Liverpool at home back to back 21-22. So you've actually got the top 3 in consecutive home games between game
Yeah.
weeks 19 and 22. You also play Tottenham at home in 24. So this run where you've had these really good home fixtures, it's going to come back around. It'd be a brave person that sold him in game week 14, but I'll think about it. You won't.
No. You know I won't, but yeah, just I think not just this season, but for most of the seasons, I mean, obviously the football's changed slightly this year, it seems, but we do still score goals. And if we're going to score goals, he's going to be involved. He's like clear talisman. Um, obviously on penalties as well. He's on quite a lot of free kicks at the moment as well. They're sort of in a shooting, attacking area. Doesn't seem to be on many of the corners anymore, but that's fine by me. Um, so yeah, I just don't see. It's like one of those, I think, because we discussed it obviously in preseason and when I was on previously. It's like even against the big teams, you're still sort of going like, "Oh, I don't really want to bench him because
Yeah, I
he gets
agree with that.
involved."
I benched him at City and didn't like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I was
no,
like, when he played against us, no thought to bench him against my team, for example. None.
no, exactly. And so I don't know. He's just it
But
depends. There is always the options that come out, because
he's one of
obviously,
them. If you bought at 7, he's obviously a really, really tough sell, right? You're selling at
yeah,
7.5 and there's a fair chance that you'll want to go back. And I think psychologically, if you come off, you're like, hang on, I've just given up this, I've banked the money. Point is, and we identified this in pre-season, this switch you have with West Ham, particularly,
mm,
where and they might have a managerial bounce at that point, by the way, where their fixtures get really good in 14, yours get tough. And actually, what price did Bowen start at? The price that I'd be selling Mbeumo at. So it's not
yeah,
like I wouldn't, if I did change my mind, I could go back when it eases up for you in February again and stuff like that. So I wouldn't rule
yeah.
it out, but it'd still be a brave thing to do when he's so consistent. He is well outperforming his numbers. We know that.
Oh yeah, no, by quite a long way as well, I think, isn't he?
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, even when the fixtures change, they're bad, but they're not awful, if that makes sense. So so it's Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea. No, Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa is the next 3 after and I mean,
Yeah, Villa away 14, Newcastle at home 15, and then Chelsea away 16. Yeah, Forest at home 17 is looking like a
yeah.
tougher fixture.
Well,
Brighton away, then Arsenal, then Southampton away, admittedly. Then it doesn't look great sandwich with then City and Liverpool either side of that as well, or
no, I
straight
mean,
after, sorry.
but those ones, I mean, like even from a defensive point of view, I mean, to be honest, Forest probably at the moment is probably the worst game for him, if that makes sense, from a defensive point of
Yeah, I get
view.
it. And that's the
Like,
point. Between game weeks 14 and 19, that's his best fixture.
yeah,
So,
but no, but what I mean is, I mean, I did expect almost Mbeumo to score against. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored against Newcastle, Villa, or
yeah.
Chelsea. I'd almost say like, well, actually, if he doesn't score against Forest with the way they're defending at the moment, that's probably maybe his hardest game. But those 3 fixtures, I don't see them as like overly amazing defenses at the moment. Well, Newcastle obviously had the clean sheet against Arsenal, but before then have been not amazing defensively, and Villa and Chelsea pretty similar as well. So I just yeah, obviously I'm incredibly biased, but when it comes
Oh yeah,
to
yeah. No, I'm
Mbeumo,
not.
but
I'm not sitting here suggesting that anyone sells him. And actually, I think if anyone was listening and watching this and doesn't own him, I'd say yeah, still get him for the next three
mm,
fixtures. Actually, would
yeah,
probably
yeah.
be my take. You know what else happens in game week 14, Neil?
We play your lot.
Yeah, I might not go Bowen. I might go Mbeumo Semenyo because it opens up money. Now, your fixture list, basically, the reason you're here now is your fixture list gets run good basically from now.
Yep.
Brentford away. I think for the offensive ones, particularly, right? Brentford
Yeah.
away, Brighton at home, Wolves away, Tottenham at home, Ipswich away, West Ham at home, United away, Crystal Palace at home, and then Fulham away is game week 19 before Everton at home, game week 20. It's been a lot of focus on Wolves and their long-term fixtures. That's not bad, Neil.
I think we're second. We second worst in terms of like who's played who, fixture wise, behind Wolves. So it was going to open up at some point. I guess it comes back to the conversation we were having earlier. That okay, if we've done this with the difficult fixtures, what can we do with these next 10, right? So there's a lot of green on spreadsheets.
Is Antoine Semenyo the absolute standout from your
Yeah,
assets?
yeah. Everything's going through him. He's driving a lot of it. He's kind of taken on the Solanke talisman ship for now. We finally got that 5.5. I know he's not now, but that 5.5 midfielder has kind
Yeah.
of finally broken ranks.
It was there all last season, Neil, at 4.5. We just kept
I
looking at
know,
the
but
midfielders so much.
um, but yeah, it's finally sort of broken through, and I mean, I sit here now just going back again to what you were saying about who's going to be cycling him in January. I suspect there'll be a few headlines between now and then around him. Although I don't expect us to sell in January.
No, you wouldn't have a requirement to do so, I'm pretty sure.
Unless someone came in with
If it's
silly
silly, it's
money.
silly, obviously, yeah. Probably unlikely in January. He's
Yeah.
5.6. I take
Yep.
it you own at the moment, Neil.
I do. Yes.
Okay. And I take it you just visualize that as a long-term hold at the moment.
Yeah. I see no reason to drop him pre January. Right.
How would you view him in comparison to, say, Morgan Rogers, who played Aston Villa very recently, who's obviously a little bit cheaper?
Rogers, well, I mean, so obviously I know quite a bit about him as well because he was with us for a season. But well, excuse me, while he is a good option, he's just not that talisman for them, right? So the fact that you've got that and literally all of our attacking play now, he perhaps hasn't had the goals and assists that you would like from someone that's in that sort of because he's sometimes getting the assist, but he's the one that's driving us forward. When you look at how we're counter-attacking, so once we get the ball in, hopefully in midfield or further up, the first person they look to release the ball to is Semenyo, particularly as he has got just a ridiculous first touch. Some of the touches he had against City, where he was sort of on point, getting the ball down from sort of head height and bringing it down, and you're just like, how on earth have you done that? So he gives us that avenue to really push forward. Then obviously on against City we had Kerkez overlapping him as well, which was interesting, and I'm sure we might talk about him as well. But yeah, I mean he just seems like our tip of the spear for now.
Where's he going to play?
He'll play on one of the wings.
Right or left? And is there a preference for you? And should fantasy managers have a preference?
I don't think so because he will have the same role either way. Now there was a clear plan, and I think you mentioned this on the pod, on the game week review pod. There was a clear plan to try and target Man City's left side. So that's why he swapped sides, right side, our left side. He generally will play out right. I think we have the forward three that can play kind of mix match in anyway, and the nature of how they play is they do sometimes rotate around a little bit anyway to make it harder to mark. So I wouldn't be concerned if he's on the left or the right, but I don't that he won't be through the centre.
No, you've got Evanilson and obviously NSU now. This would
And
only be
Cliver.
I want Cliver, yeah. I guess it might be a conversation if you had a crisis like it was prior to game week 1. It was a little
Yeah,
bit of a conversation, wasn't it?
yeah. I think in the event that Unal and Evanilson were unavailable, he would be the de facto next option up.
Okay. He scored 4 and he's got
Hmm.
1 assist. So look, attacking return at 5.6 every other game, great. A cynic might say though, Neil, that it's only 2 returns in the last 7.
Sure, but I would also then point back to the fixtures that we've had versus what we've got coming. We've not necessarily had teams that you would expect us to score pots and pots of goals against, right? So,
Yep.
with the exception perhaps of Southampton, maybe, we've played games that have been relatively close score-wise. So there's only so many attacking returns in that past fixtures to go round. I think there will be some more open games coming forward, again, with respect to some of the teams we've got coming up.
Yeah, I mean, great long-term fixtures. Actually, just looking as well, although people do clearly have a wild card left, but your last 2 away games are Arsenal and Manchester City. So you ain't got to play either of them till the end of the season.
Yeah.
Liverpool at home in February. You got away games against Chelsea and Newcastle in January back to back, and Tottenham in March. I mean, otherwise, kind of beginning to look in the clear. I mean, to go back to the point, Neil, Clates reckons you can push towards Europe, mate. I think it's part to do with that as well. It's also
Yeah.
masking the fact that his team just lost to you is probably bothering him a little bit as well. Tom, you a Semenyo owner?
I'm not at the moment, no.
Because
I've got Morgan Rogers instead.
yeah, and that's where I am. But I tell you what, I do know at the moment. I mean, I'd see the ideal midfield 5, I guess, if you just weren't worrying about the rest of your team at the moment, would be something like, subject to fitness, Salah, Saka, Palmer, Mbeumo, and then one of Rogers or Semenyo. But if it's money not bothered at all, it's possibly arguably Semenyo, maybe over Rogers, because of what you said about the talisman nature of that, Neil. But it becomes very difficult to move off them. And this is why I go back to the Mbeumo point. I might go Mbeumo towards Semenyo.
Mm.
If I want to get the other 3 in and I'm looking at Mbeumo's fixtures, maybe it's not Mbeumo to Bowen. Maybe it's, okay, right, let's go Semenyo and Rogers and go with the other 3 big ones.
That's exactly the play I've done. Although I've
You've,
got Mbeumo and so I've got Mbeumo, Semenyo, and Rogers, but then I've loaded. I've got Palmer, Salah, and Haaland. So
okay. So, but you could therefore, if you want to sell Haaland, it becomes
yep.
easy for you to kind of fix up to that midfield. It's interesting that
Mm.
because if something goes wrong where people particularly want to get higher value ticket forwards, I think, and end up with that sort of midfield, something's going to have to give, and you ain't going to want to sell any of them. But Pumo's fixtures might mean that people look at that. Maybe. Let's have a debate then. Go on. Argue the corner, Tom. Yoane Wissa versus Evanilson. Neil, argue Yoane Wissa versus Evanilson. Tom just puffed his cheeks. Was like, I don't know where to start with that. So go on, Neil. Off you go. Yoane Wissa versus Evanilson, mate.
Well, can I jump in for Neil then?
Yeah, go on then, mate. Yeah.
Can I go Evanilson?
Why? You bastard. Right, put me off Wissa prior to game week 1. You know I was going to go there.
I'll do it again
It's
now.
your fault that I didn't.
No.
Anyway.
You've got the threat of potentially an Igor Thiago coming back fit. Whereas, and I'm not 100% sure, obviously, and this is why I've jumped in front of Neil, but I think Evanilson's now looks pretty much number 1.
Yeah.
And I just have a feeling, I think Wissa will continue to play even when Thiago's back, but potentially moves slightly to the left. So I just don't know how it's going to fit at the moment. And and obviously, as you've mentioned with the change of fixtures, I mean, I've got Wissa, so I'm sitting here sort of.
So what we've just discussed with Mbeumo, are you thinking of doing that sort of thing with Wissa, where like we hit, say, Villa or around about that period in 14, and you go, I'm going to move that?
Yeah, I think Wissa will go up to one of like the Jacksons or someone at that sort of price range, maybe at that point. Depends. I enjoy owning 3 Brentford players all time, so
yep,
I might have to just stick with him. But
although God knows if you're enjoying owning Flekken, mate.
It's not his fault. I feel sorry for the poor bloke. You can only make so many bloody saves, can't
We'll come back to him.
Yeah, no. So I just think there's he's coming. So with Thiago coming back into training earlier than I thought he was going to come back into training, because it just seemed to come out of nowhere that it was like, oh, he's back on grass and he's training all of a sudden. It's how does he fit into the team? He's record signing. He's going to play games. He will be playing as a striker. I do think that means it moves Wissa to the left wing, but then you've got Keane, Lewis Potter, Yoane Wissa, Igor Thiago, Carvalho. I mean, Sade.
Yeah.
You've got so many players now in those areas. It's just he probably will still at the start, but then you're going right. Okay, he's going to come off at 60 minutes because they're going to want to get minutes in Thiago.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to put the frighteners up Vissa owners at the moment because I think the next three you'd be very happy, wouldn't you, for clarity?
Yeah, 100%.
But then, and it's not to say you have to sell for Villa Newcastle either, but I think once you hit that point, you're going to start thinking about it. Would be fair to say.
Yeah, fixtures get more congested, towards the December point, as we know. So then it gets like, is he going to? It's just them minutes, what's he going to play?
Okay, so I mean, essentially, you haven't had to say anything, Neil, and Evanilson's won the argument. Go on, mate.
It's cheaper for a start if you're going in straight out. You're right in that I know he didn't start versus Villa, but I do think that was a strategic move as opposed to anything else that was going on. So he's clear starting striker for us. I think we're starting to see him warm up. In terms of his touch, he's a completely different striker from Solanke in that he's not dropping as deep, but that means actually he's almost in better places for when we do counter attack to be the spear point, particularly as we go out wide early crosses, and that's exactly what he scored for against City with a fantastic touch.
Okay, you play my team in game week 14 on the Thursday. You got Ipswich away on the Sunday afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Is that rotation like it was for Villa for Evanilson?
I'm not sure. I would
if you take that Ipswich fixture out, it don't look so clever.
I would lean towards no. The reason behind that is Anal is getting some minutes. So what's happening recently is Evanilson is playing 70, 75 minutes. Then Unal is coming on. He's not, to be honest, not the doors off, in terms of an argument for him starting more games. I don't think it's a coincidence as well that we looked better when Evanilson came on versus Villa, and obviously he did score the equaliser. So I suspect that's what we'll continue to see, in that Evanilson will play 75 minutes. Unal will have a little chance, but I just don't see why we would be benching a player like that at the moment, unless he gets a knock at some point.
Okay, so having eliminated the question, do you own Evanilson?
Not yet, but he's on my radar. The only reason I don't own him, to be honest, is I didn't want 3 Bournemouth for the last run that we've just had.
Get that. So is there a plan in mind for you where this is the right attack spot, if you will? Is it now?
Yeah, I think we're entering my window. So my other striker, my cheap striker at the moment is Chris Wood. So I've been just riding that wave. I think that we're getting to a point in the not too distant future where Wood becomes Evanilson for me.
Okay, yeah, I can certainly see that. You're going to look game at 12, aren't you? I think based on that, aren't you? Probably just wait one more. Okay, interesting. I wonder if others might consider that. Go on in, Tom. Give you a Mark Flekken defense. Go on.
I think it's been really good this year, actually.
Fantasy managers would beg to differ.
Well, fantasy managers don't watch the game. He's got
Tom,
4 incompetent.
Can't say that, mate.
No, that's true. He's
probably right though.
no, yeah, exactly. They're watching other games instead. They're not watching Brentford. So, yeah. There's been a couple of times where I go, okay, yeah, he could have done a little bit better there. But 9 times out of 10, he's been making saves. He's made some good saves. He sometimes palms it a little bit in the right direction.
He doesn't hold nothing, Tom.
But from a natural, from a goals that he's conceded this year, I'd say most of them haven't been his fault. It's been defenders giving the ball away. It's been the fact we're playing a left back who clearly isn't a left back, and then playing a right wing back who definitely 100% cannot play right back, as proven on Monday. So yeah, I think we'll see us become much more defensively solid once we get Rico Henry back in that team. And I think hopefully then the long game of holding Mark Flekken might help.
When is that? When is he due back?
Um,
Soon,
the
hopefully, is the answer, isn't it?
Yeah, soon hopefully, but I mean it's been going on so long now. I wouldn't even be surprised if it comes out in a couple of weeks' time that he's out for another few weeks. So
But
I
not for
don't know.
Saturday, because
Not
the reason I ask is because the what you've said there, I mean, frankly, has me licking my lips. If you're going to have uncertainty at the back, because one thing that we will do is we're going to come for him, right? We'll put all of that pressure on him. So, just as an
you can
observation, that
you can
sounds
at the moment,
yeah.
Neil, you can
Seemed a
attack
bit
either
threatening,
side.
that, Neil, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Coming from,
I was watching hockey earlier. We're just going to have him in behind the goal. Yeah.
I mean, at the moment you can attack either side because I mean Sepp Vandenberg at left back isn't doesn't look great, and Roslev at right back is just that's just not it. So
Okay, nice segue. Sepp Vandenberg 4.0.
I mean, you may as well have a 4.0 defender get 0 points a game because
Is that because of him or because of your team?
to be honest, so if once we have a fit left back, because the thing is we had Crystal Via there and he was playing fine. And he's been made of glass for the last 3 seasons we've had him as well. So him at left back and Sepp Vandenberg at right back was better. Um, because Aya is a right back, so even at left back he was then sort of out of position. So we just need someone at left back to play left back,
Okay. So
and that'll
let's
give.
hypothetical. Rico
Mm,
Henry is fitness permitting now, is where we're at. He's getting close.
yeah,
We might not see him over these next good 3 fixtures.
sure.
Once he's ready, who plays right back?
Well, at the moment it'll be Sepp Vandenberg,
So
but
he'll move to the right.
yeah, it has to. Yeah, yeah, definitely. But then if Christopher is back, then I'm not sure.
So the reality is, Tom, there's this cluster of 4.0s, right? And they're like Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton, or we can have your one.
Yeah,
People want your one.
sure, but we're not keeping any clean sheets either. So I just say, yeah, there's for me at the moment it doesn't really matter because I think A is a 4.0 defender. You're not going to really play him. Um,
You say
he,
that, but you take game week 13, as I already mentioned. We're talking about
yeah,
Mbeumo capacity that week.
yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so the fixtures are rough that week, and you've got Leicester at home.
Yeah, true. Yeah, fine.
So you
Var
might,
Vardy will get a couple.
probably.
Yeah, but it's just for me, it's just like the defense at the moment is just like I've got Mark Flekken, and to be honest, I mean, like even on Monday, he's still got what 4 pointer somehow. So I think he's not actually that bad as an ownership. It's annoying, yeah, of course, I get, but this a 4.0 defender I don't think there's any really. If you
There
haven't, but
isn't. But then your
I mean, yeah,
temptation, like
yeah,
a lot of people say going to be on wildcard, I think maybe particularly next week, right? Chances are they're going to want a 4.0 defender.
yeah. I mean,
The
he
answer is
will.
probably your one, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, he's going
That's
to
my
play at the
point.
moment. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's going to play at the moment. My worry is I don't know how long Aya's out for at the moment. So if he's back, then well, at the moment he's going to play because there's no one else to play. So he has to play at the moment.
All
My
right.
worry is
Now, Dave,
Once Rico Henry's back, and if Aya's back, and when it starts to fill back up again,
I,
who's going to get first choice? I don't know.
I suspect it might only be people looking at game week 13 specifically might have
Exactly.
an interest in him,
It doesn't really
which
matter.
well,
He's going to probably play.
might need some money here, Tom. So he's not out of the running for me, actually.
At game week 13, I'm sure he's playing. So
I take it. I mean, I guess for those on wildcard in 12, I guess the defensive assets would largely get overlooked because of your bad swing of fixtures in
sure.
game week 14. But if you do want a defensive one, is it still Flecken or would you go Pinnacle Collins if removing
Yeah,
Vandenberg?
it probably is still Flecken because, like, at least, even if we concede two, he's going to make a stupid amount of saves. So even if we're conceding goals, he's still going to make, let's say, 6 saves. He's still going to get a 3 pointer, maybe a 4 pointer sort of thing. So, yeah, if you want someone just to tick over with the odd point, you're never going to get. We will keep clean sheets at some point. I hope, fingers crossed, knock on wood. But yeah. I don't really know who else is at 4.5 in the goalkeeper point of view, but I think maybe just avoid the defense at the moment.
Well, Neil, when's Kepler back?
I don't think we're going to rush him back.
Do you think Travers will stay in goal for a bit then? I guess he's earned it over the last couple.
That's it. I mean, okay, I know football's a ruthless game, but you're not dropping him after that City performance.
But Kepa's not gone on loan to you to not play, has he?
No, 100%. But I think he will come back. But I think what Travers has done is he's given us the luxury of, okay, if he needs another week because he's not 100%, absolutely fine.
No rush.
No rush. So I think that's it. So I'd be cautious of that until we see him back. I wouldn't be rushing there.
Okay.
I think once he's back, he'll stay.
I guess defensively, it's probably narrowed down a little bit more for you, therefore. And I think people will start looking because this swing of fixtures. I guess it's between Zabani and Kerkez.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Zabani is the one that I have, so he's my other Bournemouth player that just because I wanted a 4.45 that was just going to be, you knew he was going to play every game. So that was my strategy there. And he has. Not kept a huge amount of clean sheets, but again, the fixtures have not been great. So I think that will improve, particularly now we seem to have stumbled into competent goalkeeping for a bit. But Kerkez is the one going forward. He's the offensive threat.
It's the more interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is he in a position of real kind of security? I said on Monday, I think he's pretty secure now.
Yeah. He's up and running. He was talking after the Man City game about how he feels confident and that he's felt like he has adapted now to what is asked from him. He actually, from a defensive point of view, had a fantastic block. I can't remember if it was at 1-0 or at 0-0. That basically stopped them from scoring. The only danger would be Ouattara, but again, he's out with the same injury that Kepa has, in that for some reason everyone's broken their abductors. So that would be his only threat at the moment, unless you did weird things with Smith like we've done in the past. But I don't see that happening. So yeah, I think he's.
I think you could do that, couldn't you? Rojo right back and Smith left back.
Yeah, you could do that, but I see absolutely no reason to do that.
Is that if Kerkez, touch wood, he doesn't. But if he got injured, would that be your solution? I guess.
I think that would be this, presuming that Ouattara is still out. Yes, so Smith would move across, and one of Aaron's or Araujo would come over.
So, because the only real reason it would feel to go Zabani over Kerkez is, one, you want to be a bit more boring and drink water out your mugs like I do. He's the absolute assuredness that he's going to play, right, as your first choice defender, basically, despite the fact he's cheaper than obviously Senna. So
I think the other reason, and it's a very minor one, would be Kerkez has more propensity to do rash things, so he's more likely to be a negative risk as well. But it's going to be a few points, right?
Are either of them likely to produce much offensively, though?
Kerkez, well, he got 2 assists the other day, and he is overlapping, and you can see that the goal is for him to push forward more. It's always been the plan. He was brought in. We spoke 18 months ago about how his propensity was to get forward. If he's now, as he says, more confident doing that, certainly Zabani and Senesi behind him seem a lot more certain of that as well, and to allow him to go forward. And then obviously we've got Cook and Christie that are really assisting with that, which is not something we've had historically, that sort of triangle in the middle that allows the fullbacks to be more aggressive. So yeah, I mean, I hope obviously that we'll start to see more, because that will be good for Semenyo and Evanilson as well.
Okay, gentlemen, good stuff. Thank you both so much. Let's do correct score predictions. Keep it sensible, lads. Before we finish, off you go, Tom.
Is 3-3 sensible? I think it might be.
Yeah, probably.
I'm gonna go 3-3.
Oh, okay. Don't think you win. Interesting. Neil's not going to go for a 3-3.
I was going to go with a 3, but 3-1 to us.
Woof.
Ooh.
It's confident, mate.
I mean, if I'm ever going to be confident on this pod, let it be after we've beaten City. I mean,
am I right in saying? Yeah, it's a fair point. Football does smack you though, like that, doesn't it? You lost to Leicester before this run. You lose at Brentford after this run. You can see it, can't you?
100%. I mean, as I said, really, I'm going for 0-0 just because that just feels like we've spoken it and talked it out.
Can't see it. You are much stronger defensively, I think, at the moment than Tom's team.
Mm.
And there is mitigating for the reasons for that, Tom, as you said, with like Henry and stuff.
Yeah, and actually, it's worth mentioning as well. Adams is back now, which does help with our clean sheets as well.
Am I right in saying that your last home game of last season, Neil, was a defeat to Brentford? Am I right in saying that?
Oh my!
Am I
That
right in saying that, Tom? You won very late on. Bit of a smash and grab, maybe. You won at Bournemouth very late in the season. I feel like I've got that in mind. Wissa definitely scored. I can visualize it. Come on, Neil. I know you're pressing Google in the right places. Get on with
I
it.
think
Come on,
yeah, it
mate.
might have been because I think it might have been 3 points we picked up sort of when we were looking a bit dodgy towards the end as well.
yeah.
Neil, that's useless. Anyway,
Yeah. Fine.
I don't think I dreamt that. There's no point you answering the question because neither of you can remember, so it can't have been that important. Gentlemen, thank you both so much. Tom, anything you want to plug before we finish?
No, nothing for me.
Good stuff, mate. Yourself, Neil?
No, nothing from me.
Super stuff. Thank you both so much, gents. Good luck for the weekend and the rest of the season. I'll go Desmond 2-2 at the moment, and I'll think about it a little bit more in time. Clayton and James show for you tomorrow, presuming Clayton gets back safely from Milan. We've got 3 Clash of the Correspondents for you during the upcoming interlull. Southampton versus Liverpool with Matt Samuel and Dan Lord. Newcastle versus West Ham with Simon Bibby and Chris Stone. First up next Thursday for you. Arsenal against high-flying Nottingham Forest with Adam Pritchard and Mark Southern. Just leaves me to say thank you so much to Tom and Neil. Good luck, gentlemen. Cue music, please, man child.